Hey, welcome back to All Things Baseball Podcast. This is episode 10. We made it. We also got new merch. Will be coming out here soon, so be on the lookout for that. This episode will be the best baseball names, also including nicknames. We have our own criterion for why we chose these names, and so yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. Let's get into it.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're back. Best baseball names, including nicknames. This one was fun. You start digging in. Sometimes you know a baseball player and you know their nickname, but you don't know the backstory. You just know that it sounds cool or it flows or it's just really well known. There's so many that are, recognizable, but we want to kind of figure out like which ones we liked and which ones are just really unique. And again, for me, we really wanted to dig back into the early parts of baseball too, because in a previous episode we mentioned a player who's the one in my top five, and it really caught the eye of our producer. It's like, whoa, is that a real name? Like that's such a cool name. So to me, that like stuck out as a criterion. And she even said like that's an episode. Like when you get some of these names that we're about to go through, they really stand out.
For sure, yeah. There was some names I'd forgot about, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is a crazy name. Like just some of the names we have on here that we found, and then the stories that we have going along with it. Right. So, explain the criterion how we chose these names and the nicknames for these players.
Yeah, we didn't want to just go with nicknames because there's some names,
at least for our top five.
Right. There's some names that like are real names. Like there's a guy named Bratz Poffenberger. I mean, that's his name. I mean, and nobody else. There's no other Bratz Poffenberger that made the major leagues or played professional baseball.
Not yet.
So Bratz stood out. There's like Mickey Mantle. I didn't put him in my top five, but that's such a great baseball name. Yeah. Mickey Mantle. When they used to say it over the the loudspeaker at Yankee Stadium, people would get chills. Like, now batting Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
So first they would say, no, for my Yankee fan friends out there, they would say, now batting number 7, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Number 7. They would always say that.
Chills, yeah.
So I think you got guys who were like that. Their real name was a cool name, like Coco Crisp. That's a real name. He played not too long ago. I think he retired in 2016. But that's an amazing name.
Great player too.
Yeah, great player too. But then we started digging into the nicknames, and it was like, oh wow, some of these nicknames are absolutely amazing. So for us, just going through the ones that probably people know, just don't tip your hand on your top 5, but give me some that just are easily recognizable when you say them. You know who it is. Everybody knows who it is. The man on the street or the woman on the street, if you said the name, the nickname, or the name, they'd be like, yeah, I know who that is.
I think Mo. If you said, Mo or the Sandman, I think if you have any, background or knowledge of the game, your mind goes immediately to the greatest closer of all time, Mariano Rivera. Yeah. Enter Sandman was his walkout theme song.
Right.
His song to come out to, so they call him Sandman. And I guess
his teammates called him Mo.
Yeah, Mo is like
they didn't call him Sandman.
His nickname. The fans. Yeah, but that was a great one. You got Boog Powell, played in the.
Boog Powell's not a slap hitter. Like, if you say Boog Powell, you're thinking guy must have been big and hit home runs.
So,
and he was
Orioles.
Yeah.
Wait
a second. He was on the 1970 greatest baseball team of all time in one of your previous podcasts.
Yes.
You even told me that he was an MVP that year.
I believe he was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we just came back from the beach. Yeah. We got these hats and shirts in a box that, came when we were away. And this is our merch for our 15U team. We have a 15U team. So we're all things baseball. And the name of our baseball team is ATB Smashers. So Smashers has a big significance for us, from your
Yeah.
youth.
Side note. Yeah, we growing up, the name Smashers came from a book called "We Love Baseball," and the team's name in the book was Smashers, and we've used that name for teams that I played on since I was a kid.
Yep.
Up till now, we've still used
Up
the
to
name.
now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to make that distinction. So the hats, we'll see ATV Smashers. We'll have some all things baseball gear that we're looking forward to sharing with you.
But all things baseball is our podcast. Yeah. So
getting back.
getting back.
Boog Pal, like I mentioned, Boog Pal. I mean, this is a great player. He had a few really great years, but I love that name. Boog.
It's an amazing.
You won't find another Boog there. We liked Goose Gossage was a great name.
That's awesome. Great closer he played for the Yankees for a little while.
Ernie Banks was Mr. Cub.
Ernie Banks, Mr.
So that's
Cub.
That's a big name to
nickname.
live up to.
A nickname after the franchise, which is incredible. I mean, Ernie Banks was like a great shortstop.
Yeah, phenomenal. One of the top.
You got two different versions, both Hall of Famers. The Say Hey Kid Willie Mays, and you got the Kid Ken Griffey Jr.
Right, the Kid. I think anytime you put the word "the" in front of a name, like a nickname or something, it must mean something special. Like Stan the Man, Musial. Yeah. I mean, if you knew his stats or you watched him play, I think back in the 40s and 50s, he was the man. St. Louis, he owned St. Louis. I mean, he was the man. And same thing with the Kid. I mean, you can't have a name, the Kid. It's kind of like my mom lived in the Bronx. There's no the Brooklyn. There's no the Manhattan. It's the Bronx. Right. So people, and I know there's some friends from the Bronx that will be watching this. It's special.
Oh yeah.
So for sure. So anyway, we kind of were looking for things that flowed. The nickname or the name flowed really well. We went back to the Negro Leagues, and the two names that stood out were, of course, Satchel Paige. I thought Satchel was his real name.
Yeah, but it's right before we started. We found out that
it's what did I say it was? Leroy.
Leroy, yes.
Yeah, but apparently when he was working as a kid, as a baggage handler, he could carry a lot of satchels, and so it just stuck as a kid.
Okay,
but again, that's a unique name, and you won't find that. I don't think there's any other professional. When you said Satchel, you knew you were talking Satchel Paige.
You got Cool Papa Bell.
That might be the coolest.
That is pretty cool.
I mean, Buck O'Neill said that someone asked him because he played with him, and Buck O'Neill was a great ambassador for the Negro Leagues, and he died. I mean, he saw Bo Jackson play. He saw players into the 90s. I think he died in maybe the late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah.
But he said, someone asked him, "What's the origin of Cool Papa Bell?" He said, "If you have to ask me the origin or why he's called Cool Papa Bell, then you'll never know."
And he played with Josh Gibson too, right?
He played with Josh Gibson, yeah.
Holds the record for the best.
So Cool Papa Bell was a great one too. We really loved that one. So some phenomenal names. Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. Can't forget that.
Clutch, very clutch.
He was very clutch in the World Series time, so that's why they called him. That, as John pointed out, Derek Jeter was Mr. November. But didn't really quite stick because nobody really knows how many. I mean, you and I know it.
Yeah.
Yankee fans know it, but other people wouldn't know.
A couple of names, when I started to bring up, there's so many cool names that just kind of roll off the tongue. And then there's names that are named after awards and named after the surgery, Tommy John. You got Cy Young named after the best pitcher of the year.
I don't think his name was named after the surgery. I think the surgery was named after him.
Backwards, yeah. Vice versa, the other way around. But you got names that roll off the tongue, like Sandy Koufax. That's just an amazing name.
Yeah, that is. And what is his real name? Is it Sanford?
Sandal?
Sandal?
Sandal.
I don't think it was Sandal.
No, not Sandal.
Sanford, right?
Sanford, yeah.
Sanford Koufax.
I think it's Sanford.
But Sandy sounds so much better.
And then you got modern day ball players, Mookie Betts.
Mookie's got. There's a couple of Mookies. There's a basketball player, Mookie. There was Mookie Wilson from the Mets.
And what's cool about Mookie Betts' real name and the nickname, his real name is Marcus Lynn Betts, and his initials spell out MLB, which is pretty neat.
Pretty neat, yeah, for sure.
What
do you think of Blue Moon Odom? What do you think of that?
That's a pretty cool. Do you know the origin of that name?
I do not.
I don't know, but I think that's a really cool name. We got some origins.
We're gonna do more research.
Yeah,
but that's all right. It's a cool name, Blue Moon Onum. We're not gonna land on him too long, but we like the name.
definitely.
Vita Blue.
Vita Blue, yeah.
Vita Blue.
Just rolls off the tongue.
What was Vita Blue's real name? Vita Rochelle Blue Jr.
Oh wow,
that's a mouthful.
Yeah,
and he was. For a period of time, him and Catfish Hunter led that Oakland A's team to 3 World Series in a row. And he would have been one of the greatest pitchers of all time, I think, if he didn't get hurt. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Catfish Hunter. I mean, some of those guys, they really, it's unfortunate they got hurt. But what a name. And he was a colorful player, man. He was a great thrower. He could throw upper 90s for sure. He was a flamethrower, and he was a lot of fun. Like his name, a lot of fun. Let's see, who else? Well, there was a player back in the early 1900s named Bud Weiser. Do you know that?
Weiser. You mentioned it. That's kind of.
I don't think Bud was. It was like his middle name.
Okay.
So it was Budford was his middle name. They just shortened it to Bud. I don't think the beer was big back in 1906 or whenever he played, but we thought it was funny. We thought it was enough to mention. Sixto Sanchez.
Sixto Sanchez.
That's a great name.
He pitched for a little while. It just Sixto Sanchez. I think I read a thread. It sounds like that's where I found the name. I had heard him as a pitcher before for the Marlins. But somebody said that sounds like a gunslinger. I was like, yeah, that sounds really tough.
Sixto, yeah. If your name is Sixto, there's something
now coming to the
there.
game. Sixto Sanchez.
Yeah, definitely. Pete Rose was Charlie Hustle. Everybody knows Pete Rose was Charlie Hustle, so that's a great nickname. Do you know how he got that nickname?
He hustles.
He does. He did hustle. So he ran to first base when he walked. Everybody else would kind of jog. He ran to first base, but that's not how he got it. In a spring training game, he was playing right field against the Yankees. And a ball was hit about 50 feet past the fence. But he tried to scale the fence like he was going to catch it, like he was wouldn't give up on it. And Whitey Ford said, "Look at that guy. Look at that Charlie Hustle." Like they were making fun of him. Pete Rose's personality, his teammates got a kick out of it too. Because they were making fun. When he came up, he was, brash and all that. But they were making fun of him. And so they started calling him Charlie Hustle. Yeah. And you know what? He leaned into that one. Like he decided, I'm going to make that my name, and it's not going to be out of fun. It's going to be it's going to mean something.
Yeah.
And boy, if you watched him play, regardless of what you think of Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose, he definitely played the game harder than anyone that I saw.
The hit king. Yeah.
The hit king. So that's a great one. Let's see. What are some of these? Mudcat Grant. You can't forget him. We said Cocoa Crisp. You said Raleigh Fingers.
Yeah. How about some names, not on here, but how about some names that you just don't see anymore? I was just thinking Honus Wagner, Ty Cobb.
Right.
Some names that just not used anymore, and probably
easily recognizable.
Yeah. That we probably will never see again.
Right.
But some of those names that pop up, and I'm sure we're going to miss a few. But can you think of anything off the cusp?
Well, you mentioned Darryl Strawberry, the Strawberry part, but Darryl's not that uncommon. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see.
Fred McGriff. What was Ted Williams?
Well, he was Splendid Splinter, but Teddy Ballgame was his nickname.
Okay.
So that was a decent nickname, but again, Ted Williams. Both names are very common. So sometimes you get some players with a great flashy nickname, but their name was very common. And sometimes you get a Vita Rochelle Blue, where that's their name. Yeah. But yeah, there was one Yo-Yo de Villalo was his real name.
Who is that?
Davillillo. Yeah, he played a long time. He had a really, really bad batting average. He hit 162 in 1906.
I see why I never remembered him.
Yeah, he's very forgettable. But if you got a name like Yo-Yo, maybe you're not going to be the greatest hitter. I don't know.
Probably not.
That's probably.
Yeah.
The big unit, Randy Johnson.
We mentioned that one.
The
Big Hurt.
The Big Hurt.
Frank Thomas, yeah.
Frank Thomas, yeah. But in terms of what you were saying, the names that, you don't hear anymore, I don't know. What do you not hear anymore?
It's like that was names in the dead ball era for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could open up one of these older books that we have.
Right.
And probably find a couple names that
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Whitey Ford, honestly. I know we're going,
right, Whitey
yeah,
Ford. I
some
think
Yankees
he
mostly,
was
but
just Whitey because of his hair.
right, yeah,
Oh, Nomar Garciaparra,
that's a good one, yeah,
great Red Sox. I don't know why he left the Red Sox.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, back in the day, it was him, it was Alex Rodriguez, and Derek Jeter. They were by far the three greatest. After Cal Ripken retired, they were the three greatest shortstops in the league. And Nomar Garciaparra is a phenomenal baseball name.
mm-hmm.
It's Ramon spelled backwards, so Nomar.
Oh wow,
And then if you
yeah,
were from Boston, you would call it Noma. I'd hear that
oh
all the
my,
time. Noma, Noma, Noma's better than Derek. Noma. And you're
yeah,
like, is he?
Mm.
And he was, for a
He
period of
was great,
time, he
yeah.
was as good as anybody. I will say that. He
No,
was as
looking
good
back
as
at the
anybody.
numbers, yeah, like, all time,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, he was an all-time player, especially for a period of time, like a
yeah.
I don't know why he left. I think they didn't pay him enough money. I'm sure, but
Well, I mean, yeah, the Red Sox. I think I had mentioned it, briefly at the topic, but they just keep such a great average and they can hit so well. But keeping players, I think, is been
so
one of their tough things. But yeah, getting back,
getting back, so I love that. So that's a real name.
yeah,
So that goes to your thing. You don't hear the name Nomar anymore, right? Or you don't hear anybody else named Nomar. So that's
no,
a
not really.
cool name. I don't know what else. I mean,
Some of the do you think the nicknames nowadays, do you think things stick? I mean, people have such awesome names: Fernando Tatis, Francisco Lindor.
well, I think a lot of the names of players, like even Ichiro Suzuki from
That's an
Japan,
awesome name.
that's
Yeah,
an awesome name, right? And
yeah.
you remember that.
Shohei Otani,
Shohei Otani, great name, great name.
Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, Michael Jordan is known as MJ in basketball.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But I
You'll
mean,
always
the
know
name
that.
Michael and the name Jordan is pretty common,
It is, yeah.
you know.
And the
So when you
initials,
have
yeah.
like when you're an all-time player and you have an all-time name,
So it's the stature for sure that
I think so.
so yeah, if and we can go into the top five now.
Okay,
But so for my top five, I'll just ramble them off, start from five, and I'll kind of give you some of the stories that I found on some of these guys as we go. And I think you're going to help me out because we have an overlap.
a little bit.
Just a little overlap on a few players. So my number five was Catfish Hunter. So I'll let you go into that and how you told the story about that one.
Well, I mean, the owner of the Oakland A's, Jim Hunter, was one of the great pitchers that were coming up in their farm system, and they knew he was going to be an all-time great. And so they said, "All right, we need to have a backstory for you. We need to have a nickname for you." And he's like, "I don't have a nickname." He goes, "Well, what did you do as a kid? What do you like to do?" And he goes, "I like to fish." What did you fish? Catfish. All right, that's your nickname. He goes, "What?"
It's just made up.
He's just like, "What?"
It's just a giant fib.
Seriously, total fib. I'm going to tell you. And Catfish Hunter said this. He goes, Once he said that was my nickname, everybody was like, he was paying everybody.
Yeah.
So that was his name, Catfish
Wow.
Hunter. I mean, they never used his name, Jim Hunter. It was always Catfish Hunter. And he was a phenomenal pitcher. So I did get a kick out of the fact that
Yeah.
he did not have nickname. And the owner of the A's, Charlie Finley, who was a character, he just said, "Yeah, your new name is Catfish Hunter."
Who's Catfish?
And it stuck.
That's incredible.
Who's for?
Yeah, I just love that name. Four for me was Pee Wee Reese. So
Pee Wee Reese,
Pee
right?
Wee Reese, and Pee Wee Herman's a great movie. We quote that movie all the time. But it's not why I chose it. But I think the name is really cool. So Pee Wee Reese, the origin for that name. In his childhood, he was a champion marbles player. Pee Wee is known as a small marble. So he won he was runner-up in a tournament in his town in Kentucky, and the name just stuck, Pee Wee Reese.
Wait a second. Was he a champion or was he a runner-up? I need to know this.
I read conflicting things like
Ooh.
runner-up and champion. I don't
Episode
know
10A. What is he a
Is
runner-up
a
or a champion?
Yeah, is a runner-up a
Okay.
champion? So I love that name. Number three was Shoeless Joe Jackson.
It's a great name.
It's an awesome name.
You know how he got that?
Yes. So Shoeless Joe in October 1949.
Not 1949.
Well, there was an interview published in 1949.
Okay.
On Sport Magazine. Jackson recalled that he got his nickname during a mill game played in Greenville, South Carolina. Jackson had blisters on his feet from a new pair of cleats he had just gotten. They hurt so bad that he took his shoes off, or his cleats, before the at-bat and was known as Shoeless Joe Jackson after that.
I guess if you're playing high-level baseball without shoes.
How bad were those cleats? Come on.
I don't know. Well, listen, back then they probably made them, square. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Shoeless Joe Jackson. So that's that's number 3?
3, yeah. Number 2 is Raleigh Fingers, and that's like, his name is Roland.
Right.
And, Raleigh's Fingers. But there's no origin to that. It's just his
Pitcher
name.
Fingers, though. It kind of rolls.
Yeah, and it's
roll.
iconic because of the mustache, his delivery, his pitch sequence. He is
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Okay.
He collected saves. He could win games. Like, he's a ball of dynamite. And Raleigh, oh my gosh, yeah. That's why he's number 2 for me. And the second A's pitcher on this list, that 70s.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned Vita Blue. Those 70s.
3.
Three A's pitchers.
Big names. That's why they were very colorful.
Yeah.
Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of great names.
Yeah, and our overlap, Babe Ruth, George Herman Ruth. Babe is just the Babe.
The Babe.
Yeah,
well, he was also the Colossal of Clout, the Great Bambino.
Had multiple nicknames.
But
then his
real name was
George Herman Ruth.
George Herman Ruth.
And people call him Babe. How do they call him Babe? Why do they call him Babe?
So when he was first discovered or scouted,
a
guy named Dunn, who was the owner of the Orioles, he actually adopted him so he could somehow get him onto his roster early or something. So they said that this guy Dunn adopted him, and so the sports writers and the other players said he was Dunn's baby, and then they shortened it to Babe. So they were kind of making fun of him.
Yeah.
And again, like Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose, he kind of leaned into it and just accepted it. Like
took it on the chin. Yeah,
that's my name. So yeah, interesting that that it was a derogatory term because they were making fun of him because he was Dunn's baby. Like the guy adopted him and he took care of him because he was came from the orphanage right to professional baseball.
It's phenomenal, and one of the greatest players of all time, which is it's just awesome. Yeah. So knock your list out. Let's hear it.
So for me, number 5 was Yogi Berra. So Lawrence Peter Berra, great Yankee catcher. We've talked about him in the past. When he was a kid, he used to sit there in the dugout waiting for his turn to hit. He would sit like with his legs crossed like a yogi, they said, like a yoga.
Oh, yeah.
And so it just stuck. And he has so many yogiisms and so many sayings that you can't really look at his face. He had a very unique face. And you can't really look at the way he played and the way he talked and just everything about him. He was Yogi Berra. I mean, it just fit. It just rolled. So Yogi was definitely, to me, an all-time. Number 4, I threw in Hammer and Hank Aaron. I just thought, Henry is his real name. A lot of Henrys go by Hank.
Over 700 home runs. The name lives up.
Yeah, so Hammer and Hank Aaron to me is just a classic. It rolls off the tongue.
For sure.
It's not like you don't need an origin for it. He hammered the ball, so you kind of know someone just came up with that. I mentioned this earlier, Mordecai Three-Finger Brown. So, and he was a Hall of Fame pitcher, 2.06.
We mentioned him in the.
Now, do you know how he became Three-Finger Brown?
No.
He lost 2 tips of his fingers on his throwing hand. Wow. I don't know how do you become a Hall of Fame pitcher, missing bits of your 2 fingers. I don't know which 2 they were. I didn't do that in depth of an analysis or research, but
sorry, Mordecai.
But he apparently it helped his curveball. I'm reading this. I'm going, let me see your hand.
Also add that to,
how do you lose parts of your fingers and then be able to
righty? I don't know if Mordecai. Yeah,
he was a righty.
He was right. Yeah,
he was. I looked that up.
Yeah,
I did that much research.
That's another name you just don't see. Mordecai, come on.
Exactly. So,
but still, I think when we had read those stats off Chicago Cubs, it was
yes,
because he was on the greatest
2.0 ERA. Yeah, he was phenomenal.
3 fingers and having a 2.06 ERA.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Number 2 for me, and this is, to me, if you said Big Papi, everybody knows who you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
David Ortiz, Big Papi. I mean, maybe the greatest clutch hitter, certainly that I've ever seen. If David Ortiz, Big Papi, was at the plate and the game was on the line, it seemed like he had 1,000 batting average.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Just smacked the
killed the
ball.
Yankees. And he hit home runs off of Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
He hit home.
He delivered.
He delivered. And so the origin of his nickname was he couldn't remember his teammates' names. So he would just call everybody Papi.
I heard that, yeah.
He would just call everybody was Papi.
Hey, Papi.
Hey,
yeah.
Papi. And so they just finally said, hey, you're
Wow.
Big Papi.
You're Big Papi.
You're Big Papi. So it stuck.
He's like, and it was Red Sox. He's one of my favorite color commentators on the network.
He's too.
Awesome.
He is awesome. Big Papi is awesome. Who was the second baseman for the Red Sox? Dustin Pedroia?
It was Pedroia, yeah.
So his nickname was, I think, Pee Wee on their team.
Pee Wee, okay. Pedroia,
right?
Yeah.
I could have that wrong. But so anyway, so he played with him for I want to say 10 years, 8 years. So in one random game, he must have heard his name a million times. Coming to the plate, Dustin Pedroia. Dustin Pedroia tells the story. Big Papi comes up to him and says, in the middle of the game, he goes, hey, I won't do a Spanish accent, but hey, why did he call you Dustin Pedroia? And he goes, you're kidding me, right? He goes, no. Why did he call you Dustin? He goes, that's my name. He goes, you've been playing with me for 8 years. You didn't know it's over the loudspeaker every day. He goes, I never knew that. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Dustin Pedroia tells it much better than me, but it's hysterical.
Wow.
And it's so Big Papi. He
that
just
is awesome.
got it. Anyway, and then the first one was also for me, Babe Ruth. Just
Yeah.
because, if anybody can, own a nickname, it's Babe Ruth, right? I mean, you can't call anybody Babe Ruth. You got to call someone who can handle that name.
Yeah.
And George Herman Ruth is not a legendary name. But you add a Babe in there and then his personality, to me, everything just fits there.
Yeah.
So that was we talked about Oil Can Boyd. There's some great names. Dizzy Dean.
I think I read that Oil Can. He got that from two different things, that he either drank a lot of beer, because Oil Can in Mississippi was referred to as beers, or that he just could go on forever.
Right.
He had a lot of mileage, so the Oil Can.
Just so people don't say, we're going to rattle off a few that we thought of that are cool, like Bill Spaceman Lee. He played for the Red Sox. The Toy Cannon. This is for people who are my age, Jimmy Wynn. Jimmy the Professor. Yeah. Greg Maddox is a great nickname. Crime Dog, who's that?
Fred McGriff.
Yeah. So there's some great names that, that we saw. We just wanted to mention. But we would love to hear from the people. We don't get a lot of comments. We've really grown this channel thanks to the people who are watching now and some of the new people. But feel free on this one especially to tell us which names we missed that you think are all-time great baseball names. They could be nicknames or just great names, because we'd love to hear from you. And we'll, we may do a follow-up one of these and say, oh, man, we missed a bunch.
Yeah, I'm sure there's tons we're missing out on this list. But we chose some of the ones that, we thought stuck out to us. We definitely want to hear from you. And we're really grateful you guys have been tuning in. And we got 10 episodes now.
Under the belt.
Yeah, we got the merch coming out soon. We'll have, it's, a variation of the All Things Baseball or Smashers, our team name. It'll be All Things Baseball Podcast merch. But so this was the greatest baseball names and nicknames for episode 10. All Things Baseball. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.